Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing my 5,000 subscribers video. Can't really believe that we're already here, but I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about something that some of you have asked in the comments, which is my process for reading and how I end up selecting books to review and how I review them. So I'll start with what kind of books. I normally, as you can see behind me, I prefer what I call dead tree books, right? Books that are made out of paper, out of dead trees. Either new dead trees or recycled dead trees. I think mostly because I come from a generation where I like to mark in my books, make notes, highlight things. And then when I go back to the book later on, which is what I almost always do, I'm then able to look at the quotes that mattered the most to me and I put them into Goodreads. And that way they're there. And even if I'm somewhere across the world and I'm thinking about this book and I want to quote, I can go to Goodreads and find my review and what I wrote there. And then this also benefits other people. I remember actually one time someone found a Goodreads review of a book that she was working on for a paper, and she said, I wasn't able to find the paperback version of this. I only had the digital, but in order to cite this for my paper, I need to give a page number. Could you tell me what page number this quote is on, which I had referenced in Goodreads? And I went and I found it and I sent it to her in a message. So it was just humorous that sometimes just leaving quotes like that can help you help someone write a paper somewhere else in the world. This doesn't mean that I don't do audiobooks or Kindle books. I definitely do audiobooks, but because it's a different experience in the same way that watching a film adaptation of a book is a different experience than reading the book, I always say that the book versus movie comparison is very lazy because you're comparing two different things, right? Watching a film is an entirely different experience, an entirely different medium from reading a book. So it's very lazy to say one is better than the other. It's just different. Just different. There's very difficult to capture all the essence of a book in a film. And vice versa. It's very difficult for a book to capture what a film is able to do in a particular way. Anyway, this is all to say that an audiobook experience for me is it's not the same. I wouldn't experience it in the same way that I do reading. You can see behind me, I have a little reading nook. I sit back there. That's what I tend to do. I might do that sometimes with an audiobook, but I tend to do audiobooks when I'm driving or I'm doing something in which I don't really have to think and I'm free to just listen to the book. Anytime that I actually have to do something, then I wouldn't listen to an audiobook. I might listen to a podcast. As far as Kindle or ebooks in general, those are really useful, especially for long international travel. So you're not lugging a bunch of books with you. You know, in a Kindle, you could have hundreds of books with you. And what else is really great about that is you can highlight using your finger or a stylus if you'd like. And Goodreads has an ability for you to share all of your highlights or some of them or all of them, whatever you'd like to do onto your Goodreads account as well. So it basically mimics what I do, except it saves me the time. Instead of me having to type out everything, it has the functionality to just copy all of my highlights, which is really nice. And I think what else is interesting is Kindle also indicates to you sentences that other people have highlighted, which sometimes you may be attracted to, but other times you realize, okay, that's nice. I'm not going to be 5,126 that highlights it, but I understand why other people would. So I would say the majority of my books, I would say 80% of the books I read are traditional books, and then probably 15% to 10% audio and 10% Kindle, and that may just mix a little bit. So maybe it's slightly more Kindle, slightly more Audible. It just depends on the year. As for what I choose to read, I tend to read thematically. I tend to have one book lead to another book, lead to another book. I think I've shared in a different review that I really like Jon Krakauer and the mountaineering genre. And when I first got into that, I was just reading books after book after book in that genre to really start to build out my knowledge in that area. A couple years ago, I finished a 3-year process of reading through every single Shakespeare play and all of his poetry and a ton of literary criticism along with that, including the lectures of professors Paul Cantor and Marjorie Garber. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description below. They really have a way to open up the text for you in different ways that can help you appreciate it that much more, as if Shakespeare needs any more help to be enjoyable, but I assure you they're great lectures. As for how I prepare to do reviews here for the channel, I mentioned this before. I have no interest in recapping the book, blow by blow. For example, if it's a fictional book, going through the plot and the characters and all that, or if it's a nonfiction book covering every single chapter that the author writes about, what I'll tend to do is pick a few things that I want to talk about and simply offer my own perspective on the themes that are being covered in the text. And if you want those blow by blow, complete recaps, I think there are probably plenty of other authors and channels that do that much better than I could ever do. I have no interest in doing that. I want to basically start a discussion, and I find that's easiest to do if I just pick a few things that I want to talk about. And I'm not always able to talk about it because in the past, I've tried to keep my reviews to generally about 10 minutes. But in the last few months, I've found that I've had to make the reviews a bit longer, 12, 14, 15, sometimes as long as 20 minutes or longer. I think continuing in 2024, I'm going to do my best to keep the reviews capped at 20 minutes. I can't promise that, but the way I'm thinking about it is I'm not necessarily going to come back and review this book again. So I want to say as much as I want to say about it within a reasonable time period. And so 20 minutes, I think, is a reasonable cap. And instead of what I alluded to in my 1,000 subscribers video, which actually wasn't that long ago, in which I said I was going to spend at least one book a month in 2024 on the subject, I'm going to do what I've always taught my business coaching clients to do back when I was a business coach: the importance of listening to the market, right? And so I've been quietly doing book reviews for years and years and years, and you're getting hundreds of views on the videos. But when I started talking about Israel and Palestine in this particular era, I'm getting many more views. Now, I don't think it's because people care what I have to say particularly. I think people are very interested in the subject, as I am, and they're doing the same thing I'm doing. They're searching around for information and hoping to learn. And so that's all I'm hoping to do, is to share that information. So what that means is I'm going to be reading thematically for 2024 and spend most of my reviews on Israel and Palestine, and reserving a few reviews for the books that I'm reading on my own. So you'll see that change in the channel, but I don't think that will be a permanent change. I think that's just something I'm going to be doing for 2024 as I expand my understanding of the conflict and hopefully share and learn alongside the rest of you. As part and parcel of that in 2024, I'm going to be donating a portion of the proceeds from my Patreon, from the YouTube members here, from ad revenue, to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. I did a bit of research trying to find a charity that specifically helps children, and specifically Palestinian children, because they don't have the same access that Israeli children have. And here I'm going to just read a blurb about them because while I did my research to make sure that they were someone I felt comfortable donating to, I'm not a spokesman for it. So I just want to read what they have to say. Okay. The Palestine Children's Relief Fund, PCRF, was founded in 1991 by concerned humanitarians in the USA, and it provides free medical care to thousands of injured and ill children yearly who lack local access to care within the local healthcare system. Over the years, we've sent over 2,000 affected children abroad for free medical care, sent thousands of international doctors and nurses to provide tens of thousands of children free medical care at local hospitals, and provided tens of thousands of children humanitarian aid and support they otherwise would not get. PCRF's impact also includes establishing 2 pediatric cancer departments in Palestine, a new PICU and pediatric cardiology department in Ramallah, and many more critical projects to sustainably bolster the region's healthcare system. Our foundation relies on grassroots efforts, supported by a worldwide network of thousands of volunteers, to fulfill our humanitarian mission. We are a volunteer-based nonprofit, so please join our efforts. So I'll also put a link to that organization in the description. As always, if you happen to like this video, you can hit like, subscribe. You can forward it to those who might be interested in learning more about reading. That's how the channel grows. If you'd like to do more, consider sending a super thanks, joining my Patreon, click the join button on YouTube to become a member here, get early access to videos, feel free to nominate books. You can also choose a book from my Amazon wish list. and that way you can nominate a book that way and have it show up in my mail, and I can decide whether I want to review it. There's one more thing that I should mention. I think a lot of people have also asked, how do I read so fast? So part of that, I have to say, I do read quickly, but that's because of how I am and how I read. So I don't want to talk about reading speed today. What I just want to talk about is one fundamental, which is the idea of not reading quietly while you're reading. And what I mean by that is, as you look at a text, if you're quietly moving your lips while reading a text, you're slowing down your reading speed tremendously, because you're making your brain read at the speed of your lips. But your brain can read much, much faster than you can speak. So don't slow down your brain. Try your best. If you have a habit of doing that, close your lips and just read with your brain, not with your lips. And you'll find that your reading just gets a lot faster right overnight, because you're not slowing it down. So just one little tip. We can talk about future reading tips in future videos. But for now, I just wanted to make sure that's one thing I shared, that you don't need to be a speed reader. Sometimes you just need to get out of your own way and not slow down your brain by reading out loud, even quietly, even under your breath. It's just a bad habit that you might have picked up from when you were younger. Lose that habit now and increase your reading speed without losing your comprehension. As always, enjoy your reading.